Boker Tov, Yom Tov, Zarim Tovim, and Laila Tov. This is Carrie. Hi, how is everyone? I'm glad to see people joining on. Christopher, it's nice to see you. Tina, good afternoon to you. I'm going to probably chat for a few minutes here before we start anything because there's only 3 of you viewing right now, and I want to give, hello, Rhoda Rose. I want to give you guys, some people a little bit more time to be able to join into the live stream. So we'll just take a few minutes here. I am going to be going over a scripture today with you and also be able to answer any questions that you guys might have. So I did have something that I kind of wanted to share about regarding the English Bible. I actually had some really good advice given to me, and I bore witness, and so I am going to be applying that. I will not be referring to the Church of Rome any longer, nor trying to bring any past history connotations into this information that we're presenting to you guys, because this is, although it be old, because these codes have been around for a while and it's based on sacred writings that have been around for thousands of years, what we are presenting is fresh and new, and it is based upon the end of one epoch into beginning of the new. So to keep it positive, to keep it uplifting and encouraging, I am no longer going to be bringing those things or those statements or those kind of comments within our teaching structure. I have found that as I've been sharing on Facebook, there have been there are people that are angry at the English Bible and the English narrative, and I comprehend that. And the way I look at it is it's somewhat of a grieving process for us, because those of us who are very much into the Word or have been, we've had to restructure the way we think about things. And with these new energies that are coming in and what the Spirit is bringing forth to us as these greater narratives are taking place, are really challenging these foundational principles that that some of us have had for most of our lives. And I understand that. I've had to go through it myself. And anger is actually part of that grieving process as we're saying goodbye to an older paradigm and then adopting something new. And it's been painful for some of us. But I don't want to keep bringing that up or bringing that forward, because we are putting on new lenses. And in actuality, because these codes haven't been brought forth before, we are actually getting to see these things for the very first time. So they are fresh and new, and we need to, at least I need to, divorce myself from any connotations of past religiousness, religious dogma, things like that, because we we're moving into a whole new phase. And I really want to spend more time focusing on that. So just thought I would share that. And yes, I do see that. Jaded Gems, I'm going to actually share that. That it was a patriarchal society, and it was written from that perspective. That is very correct. But what's interesting is that the sacred writings have both the divine feminine and the divine masculine within them. And only one side was the dominant side, as the divine feminine was left out in its entirety. So that's kind of what we want to do, is we want to bring forth that, because that is the spiral spirit nature of what we need in our building process. We aren't saying goodbye to the divine masculine. What we are doing is we are bringing them into balance. And that is really more about the divine sacred Hebrew wedding, the mystic side of what that was all about in the ancient Hebrew culture. And they understood that, or they should have. And if it wasn't, at least we're having the eyes to see it now. So we are going to be looking at these things from the divine masculine and the divine feminine principles, and bringing fresh new revelation into what we are seeing. So let's take a look at the verse that we're going to be looking at. I'm going to be able to share that with you here. Again, I'm still learning this software, so it's not as smooth as it could be, and I apologize for that. But it is it's what I have to deal with, and so I'm grateful that I have this ability to be able to share it with you. So we are going to be looking at 1 Peter 2:9. John Etheridge has it as, but you are a chosen race who minister as priests to the kingdom, a holy people, a congregation redeemed to announce the praises of him who hath called you from darkness to his transcendent light. Actually, some of how he translated that. But there's much more as we go in word by word, and you'll be able to see the deeper revelation that's being shared here. King James, but you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should shew forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. So that's where we're going to be taking a look at. I am not sure. I'm going to do a screen share here. I'm going to see if I think you guys can see this as well. I'm hoping that you can. In fact, I might pop back out to see whether or not you can see this. It looks like you are. This is when we go into the Peshitta, into the analysis of it, we're going to take a look at what they say these definitions of these words are. And the first thing that really jumped out at me when I was looking at this, and if you haven't watched some of the previous teachings that I have shared, it might be confusing to you, and I don't want to go into great detail about it. The very first word, when it says thou, is Aleph Nun Tav. And Aleph Nun Tav is actually the word made flesh. And the reason why it is the word made flesh is that the Nun represents life, things that we are doing in the flesh, seed, progeny, being able to, well, it's the continuation of life, perpetuity. And there is a spiritual path that we must walk out within the material realm, and it is all about the seed of life. This is everything that we do in our flesh while we are here in our flesh suits. And on the outside of the Nun, we have the Aleph and the Tav. Again, the font that you are seeing right here, this is actually the Syriac font, Aramaic. And I know it's confusing, but the way the Peshitta is, it's based in Aramaic. So I decided to show you the Hebrew font because they do translate letter for letter. And we'll be moving into that when we actually look at the verse itself. So we have the first letter of the Hebrew and the Aramaic alphabet, which is the Aleph, and then the Tav on the suffix side. And Tav, Aleph Tav, is actually a summary of the Hebrew language, the Aleph through the Tav. So as one might say, in English, we would say the alphabet, and you knew exactly that it would be going from A to Z. In a summary and saying Aleph Tav, you'd know that they're referring to the language of the Aleph through the Tav. And the first time this word actually makes that it shows up in scripture is in Genesis 1:1. It's the untranslatable mark. In the beginning, created Aleph Tav, Elohim. And so it is through the language that carries a vibration that we affect matter. And then so in this aspect of it, this is the words, Aleph Tav, all the words created through the sacred letters of the flesh. This is what that's referring to. When we have it written as the Aleph Nun Tav Vav Nun, this actually connected to the Matan gift that was given to us by Yeshua when he came to help us be able to see the languages properly as the gift in order for us to become the words made flesh. That's what's so profound to me about this. The word Natan means to give, and that would be the root, but we have the Vav within here. So it's giving us the Aleph, the oneness principle, so that we can become the words made flesh as long as we are pierced within and connect to it at our heart level. So this is really, when you look at it, these are love letters that are written to us that are drawing us to the oneness principle so that we are no longer divided, but we are in the oneness unity. This is just absolutely beautiful in division of ego, that this would give us the manual of how to become the words made flesh, having given to us Natan, the principle of oneness, that we would be led by that. So this is specifically speaking to a people that would be comprehending this principle. So I hope I didn't lose any of you on. I think it's fascinating to be able to see that this is given to us. And Jada Gems, there's just to let you know, on our YouTube channel, there is a playlist that I've already begun teaching this sacred wedding. It's called the Ancient Hebrew Wedding, and you can start there. I haven't finished that teaching yet. I will be going back into it, but I'm still working on the letter teachings that I'm hoping to be releasing sooner than later. But again, as Spirit tells me to bring forth these teachings, I need to share the verses as they come, because there's reasons why these are needing to be released right now. So do any of you have any questions on the Aleph Nun Vav Tav, the Antun? If you don't, we can keep moving on. I do have a video on it, and I will put it in the description box at the end of the video, so that you can go and pull up that teaching about the Antun. If not, we will go ahead and move on. I'm not seeing anything yet, so I'm going to jump right back into the screen share of continuing on in our analysis of the First Peter 2:9. Hold on just a second here so I can share these things. Okay, so that is the first time we see Antun, but we see it again a second time here. So this principle of what we see when you see a mirror image of one word and then you see it again later, this is called the principle of the dividing, or the covenant of the pieces. And so this is referring to mother here as well as father, two teaching principles in which they are both agreeing. And whenever you see something bookended like this, which is the covenant of the pieces, it is important that we take a look at what's in the middle. This is what they're highlighting to us. And I absolutely love this, because it says that we are a chosen race, and that's what they've chosen to put it in English. But when we do a deeper dive into the letters, you're going to see something much different here, other than a chosen race. Um, the first word that we're looking at is a word that means now, and it also means judge. This is a Hebrew word for judge here. And so this is, if we want to look at it as the now message, this is meant for now, for those who have the eyes to see the oneness principle, that are wanting to become the words made flesh, just as Yeshua, that would be coming on the scene as the judges. And again, what does the judge do? They are wanting to bring life to the people, restore life and bring it in abundance to the people. And how do they do this? Well, they are the doors to the revelation, to bring forth a seed vision to give to you while you are in your flesh suit, your earth suit per se, so that you know how to overcome it. And that is really what this principle, what we're talking about here in this now moment, is those that have the eyes to be able to see this and present it to others. Then moving on, when it was saying about a chosen race, this is fascinating to me. So we're going to go in and take a look here at the word, and it means generation, tribe, family, stock, and line. So yes, a chosen race, but this is generation, tribesmen, family members that have a lineage. And the root of it is Shin Resh Bet. Shin Resh Bet. So when we take a look at this in further detail, we can see that what is added, if the root is here, then what do we have added? On the suffix side, pertaining to Father's teaching, which again, Father's teaching is the maturation principle as being the set apart bride into learning to become queen on the wedding day, that is in the place of intimacy. And we can see here that we have the Father's covenant, the fingerprint signature frequency, which changes our sine wave to match that of the covenant in being connected to and sealed in the oneness principle. So again, we saw that with the Antun, that it was the Natan, the giving of the oneness principle, where the two shall become one flesh, the upper vision from the Shamayim, the heavens connected to the lower vision of the earth. In other words, bringing earth, or on earth as it is in heaven, drawing that higher perspective, higher consciousness down into earth. And in this word, we can see that it's actually manifested and sealed. This is also a representation of the Mashiach anointing as being one. So in the deeper dive of family and tribesmen, take a look at this. We have the letter Shin, which means consuming and has to do with fire. It's consuming, the consuming nature that is necessary, the power within to deal with the fallen flesh that will raise you up to become a first fruit leader from once being poor and destitute, so that you can build yourself, build your temple through the spiritual process. And right here, we have the Bet Tov through the 222 process. And if you've never heard that of us speak of that before, uh, two, that's the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet and the last letter. So the 222 process is building ourselves through the covenant of one love. Wow. This is the family. This is the generation meaning the generation that is living now, that would be carrying this message, that would show up in the now moment of the judges that are to restore life to the people. And mother and father, through the covenant of the pieces, Antun, are letting us know that this is what they have come to present to us so that we could be the generation that would be doing this. And it's interesting too, because we have the sheen, which is a representation of fire. It is the fire that will multiply. I love that. So this is the fiery message of the seraphim that was given in the very beginning, that is now coming in the time of the end, that this message would multiply in the covenant of one love, in the now moment where we are living right now, for those who would have the eyes to see this. So anybody have any questions on this, or anything new that you would like to share? I love this. I think this is fascinating to see it as we go, of what we've been called to in this latter day generation. Because even though we can see it in like in the written English, there's so much more that we have been missing out on. So um, let's continue moving on with this. It's it's always exciting for me to share these things with you, because uh, there's so much life in it, and there's so much hope in it, that I really do like sharing this with everybody. So moving on, and this is a really important word for us to also take a look at, is the word uh, chosen. This is the word, we were having a discussion with this at some friends of ours that we were visiting at the beginning of the week. And this is the word that we would know as the chosen and the elect who are approved. And I know that this is a word that has been used quite frequently within the last century, about who the chosen or are the elect are. And what we can see in the root of it is Gimel Bet Aleph. That is the root word. And so when we see it actually written, and again, whenever these letters are added and deleted, they all have reasons and purpose. This would be the static form, the one that's highlighted in blue. This is the static, like lump of form clay that needs to be formed into something. In other words, we also see this as 0 point, the place of source creator with potential energy, not having become kinetic, but potential. And so when we look at the potential in it, the Gimel is the gathering of and assembling the teachings that would lift you up, wean and ripen you, so that you can build yourself through the covenant spiritually into oneness principle. And these would be the Bedlef also means those who would come and go, who are gathering others, assembling them at the water, the living water teachings, as to build this oneness principle. And that is the purpose of the elect, those who have been chosen and approved. But because it's in its static form, we need to be able to see what happens to this to make it active. And in order to make it active and also to qualify as being the elect, look what happened here. The Yod Tav was placed on the inside of this word. This is huge if you can actually grasp what is being said to you here. So the elect, going from the place of the potential energy to kinetic, meaning the doing of it, the actual use of the power that is given to us, as first the seed vision must be placed within, in the root, in the source of our being, in the center of our being, where our source power, spark, dwells within. And that is the power, means, and direction for us to be marked on the inside with a frequency that changes our nature. And it means that we are exempt from any form of judgment. It's interesting because the judges come, but their judgment is different than the way we see the court system of the fallen world. The judges that come forth with revelation because they are the living revelation. So in this principle, the elect who are coming as the family that are going to be bringing this message and the Antun message to you so that you can become the words made flesh. They have been given this powerful vision within that gives them the power, means, and direction to be marked with this covenant all inside. Now, this is so profound because this is the place where we connect to source. This is different than connecting to Yod He Vav He. Yod He, mother, Vav He, father, the seraphim messengers that are teaching instructors over this earth of everyone that is underneath in the learning process into the maturation of becoming seraphim. This is actually the mark of becoming one with Creator, which is source above the seraphim messengers of Yod He. That's really fantastic. So that's what makes them the elect. So I don't know if you followed that or not. Hopefully I was able to share that with enough detail that you would be able to grasp what this is saying. But this is how you know who the elect are. And I think that, to me, to have that something that we can connect to go, oh, okay. So again, and what's so fascinating about that is the yod. The yod is also means the work and the deed of the hand. So yes, we do have works that we must accomplish. This isn't something that happens instantaneously. This is something that we are seeking after and we are developing within because we go in on the inside to develop this. Hi, Joe. I'm glad you made it. She's one of our Australian friends. They have a huge time zones difference, so I'm really glad that she's here. And I see all of you other people that have joined. Thank you so much. This is, I get excited that we're doing this live because I can feel your energy and it's super exciting to have all you guys here. So this concept of the elect is very important for us to grasp a hold of this because this is something that we are doing so that we can manifest within the earth. And that is why we are becoming the change that we want the world to reflect around us because we're the ones that are manifesting it. We're the ones that are bringing heaven to earth. And this is part of it. This is part of it. Boy, that's early, Joe. That's like it's time I get up in the morning. Anyway, so this energy is what we are manifesting on the inside so that collectively it can be accessed in the greater consciousness of mankind to make it easier for them to be able to grasp a hold of this. So those that are forerunners, this is a huge thing of why we are the elect if we have manifested this so that we can bring it forward. And again, the first four words of this verse are letting us know how to do it, is becoming the words made flesh, walking just like Yeshua as the gardeners, as the judges that have come, that are the family of one that are carrying this message. And they have found the power within them on the inside in order to become it. Fascinating. Let's move on to the next word where we are going to actually be discussing what the priesthood looks like. This is, I really wish that we had another word to be able to use for priesthood. I would actually love to use the Hebrew word itself, Kohen, but that still has connotations with it as well because we've had kind of misrepresentation of what it should look like. But when you look into the sacred writings, you can see what is being shared here. And I love this. Okay, so what I highlighted for you is Kohen. This is the Hebrew word for priest. But I want you to notice something very, very fascinating. The letters that I didn't highlight, the first two letters on the front side as the Dalet Mem, and then the Aleph on the suffix side. Dalet Mem means blood. Aleph also carries the connotation of one. This is one blood. One blood. Adam. Aleph Dalet Mem is Adam. So the frequency of the letters that have been added to this word for priesthood or priests is Adam, one blood of mankind. The door of revelation that will reveal our weak and feeble state within so we can deliver ourselves from that while we are in the waters of chaos as the priests who are of one, the oneness unity the Mashiach anointing, unified as teaching shepherds that have a authority that speak forth this revelation in having become it. And I really love this because on the suffix side of it, this is a Hebrew word that means I beseech thee. I beseech thee as the priesthood that you would be of one blood, that you would be a family that would bring forth this oneness principle as a priesthood, those who have their cup ready to be filled with the language that brings forth revelation as they choose to tame and yoke themselves to this revelation, revealing it, the spiritual path where it's elevated now. Notice that this noon is elevated. So in Hebrew, this would have been a fallen noon. In Aramaic, because the divine feminine has come to join with the divine masculine in becoming one, it is now risen, which means the priests are now teaching the principles to overcome our fallen flesh nature so that we would have new flesh. So kind of let that sink in connecting with the Antun, the words made flesh. So in other words, this formula of everything that we've seen right here in walking through this is allowing us to become just like Yeshua was when he was walking here in the earth with his message of oneness unity. That's amazing. Then we go into the word kingdom. And kingdom, I'll go ahead and show this to you so that you know that I'm proving this, letter by letter here. And again, like I was talking about, priest had a fallen noon. And when it was written with the risen noon instead. I don't want to go there. So now we have kingdom, realm, and reign. And the root of this is mem lamed, fallen kaf. But as you can see, there are many, 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 many letters that are added to this from the root position. So we have malak right here, which is kingdom. And look what's been added. We have a lamed on the front side, and we have the utha on the suffix. Now remember, this utha is the same suffix that we saw over again on the Beast of Revelation, the kayutha, the living creatures. So this is not a negative one whatsoever. This is a positive suffix in that it means connected to the Father, carrying the covenant frequency of Father, having joined into oneness unity as the kingdom, malak. And it's not a fallen kaf, it is a risen kaf. So this means that this is not filling ourselves with the fallen language of the world, the alphabet, the alpha language, but that one of the aleph bet, the one that gives us power. And this cup has been filled and been pierced with the revelation that comes from the sacred languages that have allowed us to connect in meekness to Father, giving us the signature frequency change where we are no longer in judgment because we no longer judge. We are in oneness unity. So the system of duality does not exist for us when we reach this point. And because it is, a lamed has been added in front, means that the priests that would come, that have become one, would be instructing lamed, as that's one of the meanings of the lamed. They would be instructing ways of the Malkutha, the kingdom of one. Hopefully that's bringing a little bit more clarity to this verse. And when we take a look at, I love this. So holy people, holy people is the next two words. And I'm giggling at this because of how this has been seen through by other people when we actually take a look at the word. Scrolling down, people, nation, and Gentiles. So when we are looking at people, nation, and Gentiles, what is so beautiful about this, and if I get emotional, I don't necessarily apologize, but I know sometimes that might be a little off-putting to people, but it's just the way this language really affects me. It does make me cry because of the unity that I see within it. This word in Hebrew specifically speaks of the tribesmen of Israel. But this is also meaning, when we bring it forth into the Aramaic, people, nation, and Gentiles. And look at this. Ein Mem is the root, but look at how it's written. It's Ein Mem Aleph. So all the people, tribes, nations, tongues, Gentiles included, everyone is considered one. And we'll take a look at this a little deeper here. We have the eye that sees the purpose in the waters of chaos as the hidden waters or are behind, which is the waters of shalom, is to bring forth the oneness principle. That's what the people who are holy and set apart are to be doing, because they are the priests, the Kohanah, the one blood of Adam, of mankind, one unified people that are the instructors in the way of the Malkutha, the kingdom, as being united as people. I love that. And Kadosh is the root for holy. But notice again, so Kadosh or Kadash, Kuf Dalet Shin is the root of this. And we have that added, and that yod on again on the inside is that seed vision, that seed of power that is planted within us, which is a door of revelation where we go inward to be able to find where we're weak and feeble so that we can deliver ourselves from that. And the holy, it has oneness again. So this is a set apart people. And the reason why they're set apart is because they're no longer in the system of duality. So they're going to be set apart from the system of duality because they're coming to instruct the way of the kingdom, the way of one, as the tribesmen, as the Gentiles, as of the people of the entire world are all one. How beautiful is that? We are set apart in the oneness principle. And when we take a look at this, it's compressing light in the circle of time and finding the narrow path between the light and dark through that which was once hidden, now revealed, going through the door of our inward man where we are pierced with this revelation, the seed vision, the power, means, and direction to walk through the consuming fire that gives us the ability, the direction to overcome our fallen flesh nature, aka ego, in order for us to join in the oneness principle. Are you guys following along? Thank you, Claire. Yes, it is. Yes. I cry all the time when I go through these teachings as well. I just wanted to make sure. I'm just checking to see the different comments to see if there's any other comments or questions about what I've shared so far before we continue moving on. This was a comment that I did see about the chosen. Thank you for sharing this. I really appreciate these comments. I do check on them. Thank you, Renegade. I appreciate it. I'm glad that you guys are following along. Let's continue with the last half of this, and I'll try not to take as long. There's just so many nuggets. Like I said, I've had people that want to try to get these interpretations down to less words, and it is very difficult for us to do because there's so much information. And this is, you can begin to see why we say that that this is a type of shorthand. Because all the letters have meanings, and then when the letters have meanings and they form words and the words have definitions, you can see why the English translations have made it so entirely difficult for us to really extract out what we needed to guide and direct our footsteps. But we have the eyes now to see it, and there's much deeper dives that you can go on this. I'm teaching more of a surface orientation so that you guys can connect into it. But when you involve gematria and some of these deeper things that we have not known before, you can really spend hours and hours excavating to get the fullness of this message. So now that we understand who the people are, yes, Joe, it is very difficult. It is very difficult, but the more you do it, the easier it is because you begin to develop the eyes to see it. You know, it doesn't take too long anymore to be able to go through these scriptures, at least on my end. Hi, Greg. To go in on my end to be able to extrapolate these things. So let's go back in and finish with this last half of the verse itself. So now when we're looking at this, we see, so we just went through the holy people. And now we have the word congregation here. And this is Kanasha. And I love this. I just love this. So Nasha right here, the last words have the same exact gematria from the word Anash, meaning weak and feeble, and as mankind as being weak and feeble. But we just were seeing how the process of what the priesthood is supposed to be doing in this oneness unity, that they are, I beseech thee, brethren, right, to be able to instruct the way of the kingdom in the principle of oneness as the Utha. All the people, Gentiles, tribesmen, it makes no difference because we are all one, and we become set apart when we become unified in as one. Now this is like the message. Now we're seeing that we need to take it to those who are still in the weak and feeble position as mankind, in order for them to be able to grasp a hold of. Kaf means to grasp and power. So grasp a hold of the pay, the language that brings forth revelation, so they too can be pierced. And this allows them to walk through the spiritual path of the consuming and purifying fires of that lesser beast ego, so that they too can become one. So wonderfully written. I just, again, I get thrilled when I see these things. And we can see, so looking at the Kanash, the difference was that added aleph on the suffix side of it, the oneness unity that comes from the Father's teachings in the deeper portion of it. So moving on from the gathering here, look at this next word. Look at the definition of this next word. It's Peresh Kuf is the root. It means depart, deliver, save, rescue, pursue, and go away and abstain. And again, these languages are dual in nature. So a lot of times you will see the difference between the if you want to say right or left or good or evil or right or wrong, in the system of duality, because we are being able to, given the choice, to render everything clear, to see the oneness within all of it. And this word already, I can tell in looking at what it's morphed, it already has the aleph added on to the suffix. So let's take a look here. So parug, I will get this out of the way. So pe, resh, kuf, what has been added to make it from the static position, from the potential energy to kinetic energy, is now we have the yod that's placed within the center. Again, being placed in the center is the place of source energy, creative energy, that has given us the power, means, and direction to deliver ourselves, which was part of the definition of this word to begin with, and being able to enter into the oneness principle. So they have translated as redeemed. And when we look, I went into Jastro's, or not, I'm sorry, not Jastro's, but Ernest Klien's book, and part of the revelation. And here it is, I'll read it to you. So it means to be redeemed and rescued, to be separated from and broken loose from, removed and withdrew, and parted as rescued and delivered and removed. So again, over and over again, we see that the part of the rescuing and being delivered is from our ego that tells us that we're separate. Because over and over again, the aleph is added. It is letting us know that we are no longer needing to be separate, that we are all one. And that is what we see here as being redeemed and delivered, that powerful vision is placed within us so that we can do that. I find this just exciting because it does this. These just verify so much of what the Spirit has already been sharing many people on their own without having the words to verify it. And now the words are here through the sacred languages to verify what the Spirit has been declaring to many of you who've already been reaching this on your own. I love this. So in the next word, we have preach, declare, bear, endure, nourish, and fed. Now, one of the reasons why this nourished and fed is so important on this last portion here has to do with the Bet Resh. And the Bet Resh, you will find this, the very first time you start seeing this is actually in Genesis 1:1. And it means to feed upon that which is formidable And it also has to do with being selected, being pure and innocent, as being formed that way. So again, if we take this to the beginning, if we take this to the very beginning of the verse, we were looking at the Antun, that this is what is being given to us to become the words made flesh, but we must consume it in order to become that. And in this word, we can see that the formation process is already there. This is what nourishes us and feeds us so that we can endure. But it is something that we are going to have to bear as a load, because it is so different than what the world right now, by and large, they just don't comprehend this. But we are to be declaring this. Don't necessarily like the word preach. I'm just going to say that we declare this by the actions and the work and deed of our own hand by becoming it. And when we take a look at this root, semek betresh, this is similar to basar, which has to do with flesh as a Hebrew word in the gematria. So we are talking about it also, the basora, if you guys know that Hebrew phrase, it means the good news. But then again, we have the bar. Again, this also means an heir to the throne, and that can either be male or female. And when we see this, look at this, the tav has been added on the prefix side. So this means the covenant of mother has already been established, which is the golden rule, as that's what mother teaches us in the divine masculine principle, which then allows us to be able to be walking in this. So everyone is walking in this at this point. That will actually will make it seem like heaven on earth if we were all operating in the golden rule. And the semek has to do with the wedding ring and the signet ring. So this is in the process of what we saw in all the words prior. We are actually sharing the message of the wedding, that which gives us the signet ring, where we build ourselves and our temple through the spiritual path that raises us up from being poor and destitute to first fruit leaders. We're walking in meekness while we are in the flesh. So, in other words, having the wedding ring means that you have just moved from past the bride status, past the betrothal status, to now one who is wed. And this would also be known as the Queen of Heaven. And there's much to be said about that in my ancient Hebrew wedding teaching if you haven't watched that. Moving on to the next word. This has to do with praises, but here's the root. This is so amazing. Here's the root, shin bet chet, and what has been added on the prefix and the suffix, the things that I haven't highlighted. We have the tav, the covenant of mother, and the covenant of father. And as those who reveal that they have these covenants, because literally your frequency of your body changes when you receive the mark of the mother. When you receive the mark of the mother, people feel safe around you. And so they feel safe to be able to operate around you. When you receive the mark of the Father, you now have changed into that oneness unity of unconditional love. So now it's like golden rule on steroids. People really do feel safe around you, unless they are in a complete opposite polarity. Then they wouldn't want to have anything to do with you. But the praises that are happening is because we are revealing this. We are revealing that we've had this changed nature. And these are those who have turned, shuv, which would be what we would know this term in English as those who have gone through the repentance process, which just simply means to turn. And what is turn? Well, it comes from a root that means to settle as if already married. Those who have gone through the consuming fire process that have dealt with their fallen flesh nature, they were given the power to do so, and they built love and found life. And if you watched one of my previous streams, I was sharing with you that Chet is from Chava, the mother of all living, which means that those who have turned and found life have found Chava, have found life and found it abundantly. This is the symbol for life. Het Yod Tav, the covenant of life. They have turned towards the covenant of life, and they become those who have been marked that reveal this to others. Moving on, Hey Vav. As you can tell, it takes a long time to be able to dig these things out and explain them to others. We have that, those, and who, and the root of that would be hey, vav, and we have a dalet. So the praises, those who reveal this nature through their frequency change, they are actually the doors of revelation that come to open this up to you, to bring forth this revelation so that you can connect to it through humility and meekness. And moving on to the next word after that, we have kufresh aleph, which means call, read, and appeal. Now, it's interesting because the aleph has been removed from the root position. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because when you see in its static position, so lump of clay that needs to have something done with it, look at what's added. It is kuf vav noon. And if you've seen other teachings, this might look very familiar to you. But for those of you who aren't familiar with this, kuf vav noon is a suffix that happens all the time in Aramaic, which is a Hebrew word that means to be firm. So going down and seeing this, to be erect, to stand perpendicular, to set up, to establish, fix, prepare, apply, appoint, render sure, proper, or prosperous. It's a huge suffix, just a huge suffix. And so having that added, so Father's teaching allows us to stand. And that is part of the name of our YouTube channel. And how do they stand? They are announcing and bringing this forth as doors to reveal this to you, because they've compressed light within the circle of time. They found the narrow path between the light and the dark. They did this through that which was once hidden, now revealed, raised up to be first fruits, leaders, from once being poor and desolate, who now stand firm because they grasp a hold of the power of the languages. They connected to the Father while they are in the flesh, and they are the ones who are standing firm, that are prosperous, that are appointed as rendered sure as the elect. So they're standing firm. So you kind of maybe heard us talk before about that we to get past the point of kneeling, and we need to get to the place where we are standing. And this process of everything in these first these words that we already went through enables us to stand in that which we've grasped, as it is our power. Then we have the word men, which means to be a part of, like a stringed instrument that plays a chord. It is also the Hebrew word for manna. The manna that we pursue in the dark. I love this. So think about where we have just come out of. We've just exited out of a phase of darkness, of ignorance, and we've just crossed over into this new age of light and love. We're into the age of Aquarius. And so in the darkness, chazek, we found oneness. There are many who found this prior to us even shifting over into the age of Aquarius. And I think that's just fascinating to me, because we didn't have this. This is, part of the reasons why many people didn't see this before, is we didn't have the energies to support it, but we do now. And it was a fallen kaf in the original, in the root of the het, sheen, kaf, but now it's risen. So what do we have here? Again, we have life. We have the het from the chava, finding life that was separated from us as we went through the consuming fires, where we connected to source within us. Our heart was pierced. We chosen to have our cup filled with the oneness principle, and we found it in the dark. The dark just meaning that it was hidden from us, and we, in searching in the darkness, we found the oneness principle. Then it goes into light, and the root of this is noon. I believe it's noon hey resh. Yes, it is. So in the root of noon hey resh being light, this is the root of where we would get like menorah from. And menorah, the difference between this word and menorah is this has the lamed instead of the mem. Mem, again, is the waters of chaos. So this is now the light This is a light that is no longer in the waters of chaos. This is light from above. Teaching shepherds that come, they instruct the way of light, the spiritual path where you must be pierced and connected to your heart, source within you that reveals what is necessary to raise you up to be a first fruit leader, where you will be revealed as light. And again, we have the principle of the covenant of the pieces. We have mother on one side, we have father on the other side, both that have revelations that are meant to raise you up from being poor and destitute to be first fruit leaders. So again, finding life in the dark and then learning to become teachers of the light that will be revealed as such. And then we have the last word translated by Etheridge as transcendent. Almost done, guys. I know there's a lot here. The very last word we have here is excellent and eminent. Eminent is the word, I decided to pull this up, and I know that you can't see it. I'm just going to read it to you. It means famous and respected within a particular sphere or profession, or used to emphasize the presence of positive quality. So some of the synonyms that you would hear on this would be illustrious, prestigious, important, significant, prominent, superior, exalted, also being conspicuous, marked, outstanding, total, and complete. So in connecting that transcendent light, let's take a look and see even further this definition of Yeter. Let's move it here. I think I have this. I think I already pulled it up. Give me a second here. I am looking in, and I know you guys can't see this. I'm going to actually pop out of this real fast. Well, before I get too much further, let's just finish this, and then we'll go into a little deeper dive here. Yitir, here's your root. What has been added? Well, we have the mem and the aleph. So mem on mother's side is through the waters of chaos. There is a more excellent way that is being shown to us through the teaching shepherds of light that found the oneness in the dark, that is coming to give us the power over death. Memtav is death, and now we have the power over death as those who have been given the ability to see the more excellent way of becoming one. I find that super, super fantastic. I don't know about you. I'm going to pop back out of this, stop our screen share. This is incredible. I know that that was a lot. That was a lot that we went through here. But to be able to see of what we are being called to for those who have found the oneness principle and what we are to bring to other people in the world, to be able to connect to this oneness principle and the beauty that it is taking everyone. It's not just a select group of people. Yes, they're going to be set apart because they have found the oneness principle, which means they've exited us out of the duality, which means this is the greater exodus, the second exodus up and out of the system of duality. But it is unifying every tribe, nation, and tongue, including what some would call the Gentiles or the Goyim, that it includes everyone in this. No one is excluded from it. And these teaching principles have come to show us the dark and the light as being unified, as it being necessary to be revealed to us so that we can unify it and become one. Does anybody have any questions on what I shared? I'm kind of looking back on some of these things. Let me go back here. I love the comments you guys are making. Yes, there's many confirmations. And Adonai, I love that. And yes, let's remain in the upper room all day. I would totally agree with that. And yes, Greg, Ouroboros, I agree with that. I'm going to be releasing a teaching that Ken just did. I'm editing it right now, so it'll probably be out in the next day or two regarding the Ouroboros. And yes, the stars, yeah, the curtain is about to open. Yes, they are. Stage curtain is about to open. All right, standing wave. I like that. Yes, standing waves that have materialized in flesh that are going to be changed into vessels of light that will be able to show the way to those who haven't found it yet. So thank you for letting me share today with you guys. And like I said, that was a big verse. There was lots of words. I have some more that I want to do. I want to actually go over Galatians, I believe 2:20 is the next one that I want to do with you guys. But I really wanted to bring this one forward because I wasn't able to finish it with my friends when I was visiting in Central Oregon, and I wanted to be able to let them see it as well. So it was really good for us to be able to have this, to finish it and completing for it. And yes, Greg, I'm ready for the show as well. I totally I totally agree 100% on that. So thank you for joining me. Shalom, shalom, and namaste.